The next speaker is Ms. Osha Meserve from the local agencies of the North Delta, and then Mr. Len Marino from the Central Valley Flood Protection Board. Ms. Meserve, good to see you again.
Good morning. We have submitted written comments on behalf of local agencies of the North Delta, which is a coalition of water districts and reclamation districts in 90,000 acres of the northern and central Delta. And we will be submitting a couple of additional written comments later today. I just want to hit on two major concern areas that we have. In looking at the regulations that are being proposed, it looks like there are some repetition with other statutory definitions and also conflicts with existing statutory and regulatory definitions. In particular, we're concerned about duplicating definitions that are already in CEQA and their implementing regulations, and then also conflicting with those same provisions. So like whereas feasible as defined in the regulations is the same as in CEQA, significant impact is quite different and appears to have quite a lower threshold. And is quite confusing as well, refers to a lot of other terms of art in CEQA that are interpreted over 40 years of case law, baseline, all the other things that we work on in CEQA. And we've been raising this comment throughout the Delta Plan process, and I would just urge counsel for the district to look carefully at this issue and to engage outside special counsel on CEQA to make sure that we're not creating a lot more confusion than needs to occur with respect to these definitions and the regulations. We're also concerned about the definitions of floodplain and floodway and how those conflict with other definitions in the Central Valley Flood Plan and other places in the Water Code. There's also a concern that it's not clearly described what the difference between routine maintenance and substantial rehabilitation of levees would be. We want to encourage levee districts to do the maintenance that would reduce risk in the Delta and increase flood protection to the extent that what we would consider to be routine maintenance becomes covered actions and becomes subject to a lot of additional analysis. It's going to make those projects infeasible. With respect to the cost analysis, we've submitted some detailed comments on that, and I'll be getting a little bit more into that with some written comments later today. But we're very concerned about the additional analysis of covered actions that our districts might be undertaking in the future and how that will make what are already projects that are difficult to carry out because of their costs, like levee improvement projects. Now there will be a lot of new requirements to justify not building setback levees, which really are inappropriate in many locations in the Delta, as we've described in previous comments. Also, a lot of additional analysis to explain compliance with reduced reliance on the Delta for in-Delta water users, which, as we've explained previously, in-Delta water users don't have any choice but to rely on Delta water. So we still don't agree with the policy, and then it's still got the same problem in the implementing regulation. And it would also creates a lot of confusion because the regs aren't clear that the smaller water districts, like under 25,000 acres, are clearly exempt from the water management plan requirements as in the Water Code. So again, there's just a clear pathway is not laid out for how these smaller districts are supposed to comply with reduced reliance provisions. Additionally, the floodplain restrictions for covered actions in the future are confusing and could lead to a lot of additional cost on what are already expensive projects, and that should be promoted. So the cost analysis, we are concerned that it minimizes the costs of implementing the regulations in Delta, and that it should be revised to more clearly reflect what the actual costs will be. At the same time, we continue to be concerned that the Delta Plan, not so much in the regs, continues to blindly promote the BDCP and the new conveyance, which, unlike the projects that I'm talking about, levee maintenance, small water projects for in-Delta water uses where land use is already extremely restricted and no growth is really allowed except with minor exceptions, this BDCP has the most potential to substantially impact implementation of the co-equal goals, more so than any of the actions that local agencies would propose in the Delta, and yet the plan blindly promotes completion of it without attempting to provide any guidance to it. So we would ask that the Council rethink what it is trying to accomplish with the plan and also with the regulations. It's not clear, looking at the regulatory requirements from OAL and in the government code, that these regulations are necessary to implement the Delta Plan, and moreover, it doesn't look like the appropriate cost analysis and clarity has been provided for OAL to approve these regulations at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.